Go ahead, take a look at your dining table. I'm willing to bet there's a salt shaker on it. It's got to be one of the most common, most ordinary objects in our lives, right? We sprinkle it on our food every day without even thinking about it. But what if I told you that this humble, everyday mineral holds a really profound spiritual power, a sacred symbolism that has seasoned human history for thousands of years? So yeah, what does your salt shaker have in common with a sacred text? Well, the answer to that question, it kind of opens up this fascinating story about how we as humans find meaning in the most everyday things. It turns out that simple shaker on your table is deeply connected to ancient covenants, divine blessings, and sacred rituals all across the globe. Okay, so why salt? Why not sugar or pepper or something else? Well, the reason salt became such a powerful symbol isn't random at all. Its spiritual significance comes directly from its basic fundamental properties. It's not about what we decided salt should mean, it's about what salt is and what it actually does. And when you break it down, this connection is just so beautifully simple. Salt enhances flavor, right? So that became a symbol for adding divine value to the world, for making things better. Its ability to preserve food, to stop rot and decay, made it the perfect symbol for permanence, for eternal, unbreakable promises. And of course, its natural antiseptic properties created this powerful metaphor for spiritual cleansing and protecting yourself from evil. And this right here, this might be one of its most powerful symbolic qualities. Think about it. Salt remains salt no matter where you put it. It has this built-in nature that lets it completely transform its environment, like preserving meat or flavoring a meal, without losing its own essential saltiness. This became a model for a really resilient and effective faith, one that can positively change any culture or situation it finds itself in without being watered down or compromised. So, let's see how these very real properties built the foundation for salt's role in some of the world's major religions. We're going to start with the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, where salt is literally woven right into the fabric of worship and community life. In Judaism, salt is this profound symbol of the eternal. Because it never spoils, it was seen as the perfect representation of God's unbreakable covenant with the Jewish people. This is exactly why it was a required ingredient on all sacrifices in the ancient temple. And even today, the tradition of dipping challah bread in salt before a meal, that's not just for flavor. It's a powerful weekly reminder of that very covenant and the secret rituals of the past. The Hebrew Bible really captures this idea of salt as an agent of divine power in a pretty dramatic story. In the Book of Kings, the city of Jericho had a huge problem. Its water was toxic, causing death and barrenness. So the prophet Elijah's solution wasn't some complex ritual. Nope, he just took some salt, threw it into the spring, and through that simple act, God healed the water. This miracle pretty much cemented salt's role as a vehicle for divine purification and restoration. And this legacy carries straight into Christian tradition. I'm sure you've heard the phrase from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, "You are the salt of the earth." This wasn't just a nice little compliment. It was a direct call to action. His followers were meant to add a divine flavor to the world, to act as a preserving agent against moral and social decay, and to be a source of healing. And this is taken quite literally in some traditions. In Catholicism, for instance, blessed salt is often mixed into holy water and used in rituals to protect homes and people from spiritual harm. But this deep reverence for salt as a fundamental blessing from God isn't just a Jewish and Christian thing. There's a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad that just beautifully captures its status in Islam. He places salt right up there with fire, water, and iron as one of the essential gifts sent down from the heavens. In Islamic practice, salt plays both a practical and a really deep symbolic role. For one, it can be used for ritual cleansing if you can't get fresh water. But maybe its most powerful meaning is as a symbol of hospitality and loyalty. To share salt with someone or to say the phrase, "there is salt between us," that signifies a bond of friendship so deep it's considered sacred and unbreakable. But the story is so much bigger than that. Recognizing salt's spiritual power is a truly global phenomenon. It pops up in traditions far, far beyond the Middle East. It almost seems to be this shared human impulse to see something sacred in this essential mineral. If you look at many Eastern spiritualities, the focus often shifts to energy and purification. In some Buddhist traditions, you might see little piles of salt at the entrance of a home, and that's to act as a barrier to repel negative spirits. In Hinduism, it's a sacred offering to deities, symbolizing purity and a prayer for prosperity. And in Taoism, salt is seen as embodying the active, fiery yang principle, a tool used to balance out negative yin forces. And it's a similar story across the incredibly diverse landscape of African traditional spiritualities. Salt is often seen as this powerful substance that mediates between different worlds. It can be laid down to create protective barriers against harmful forces, but it can also be used to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual realms, often as an offering to ancestors or as a key part of deep purification rituals. So, after this whole journey through history and across cultures, we come right back to where we started, that simple shaker on your table. But hopefully now we see it a little differently. And it brings us to a final, really important question, one that's directly inspired by a line from the Christian New Testament that has echoed down through the centuries. This question, it comes directly from that famous line in the Sermon on the Mount. Right after Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth," he follows it up with a challenge. What happens if salt loses its flavor? It becomes worthless. So in that Christian framework, the question is really a metaphor. Is a person making a positive difference? Are they acting as a force for preservation and goodness? It's a concept that challenges believers to think about their unique, positive impact on the world around them. This same Christian teaching also offers a kind of path for believers to get that purpose back. As you can see here, it's a process. It starts with just remembering one's divine purpose. Then it involves repenting, which basically means turning away from the things that are diminishing your spiritual effectiveness. The goal is to renew that commitment to being a force for preservation, and finally to reach out and actively influence one's community for good. So, in the end, the sacred symbolism of salt isn't just some interesting piece of history. It's a timeless call to action, and you can find it in so many forms across so many cultures. It's a call to have a positive effect on the world. It reminds us that even a tiny amount of something good can make a huge difference. So the final question is really for you. In a world that so clearly needs it, how will you add your flavor?